So, guys, just want to thank everyone for checking in tonight. Really excited. We got Coach Stagnita here from the PLL Whipsnakes championship team last season. So I'm sure you guys are all pretty familiar with him. He brings tons of years of experience. I think over 20 years of experience coaching at the collegiate level. He's been around the game for a long, long time. At all the different levels, and really has just a really unique and cool perspective on the game, in my opinion. And I had the pleasure of being able to play for Coach Staggs for a couple of years when I was in Denver. One of which was an undefeated season where, in my opinion, I think we had one of the best groups to ever get together and play. And I think a large part of that was just with Coach Staggs' leadership and what he was able to do for us, leading the charge there. So really excited that he's with us tonight, and really honored to have him. And it's exciting to see all the names popping up on the screen here that want to learn from him, and seeing a lot of parents out there as well. So let's just enjoy the next bit. And Coach, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thanks. Hey guys, thanks for joining us tonight, or joining. And I appreciate and have a lot of respect for both Coach Bice and Coach Kelly for all the opportunities that they continue to offer you guys. Obviously, a difficult time, and but always it's also a time and an opportunity that we don't often have to be able to kind of focus on ourselves and focus on our personal development, and to spend some time on some things that maybe we don't have time to in ordinary times, or we don't think to do. So, it's one of the ways we've approached this. I'm fortunate. I left college coaching 4 years ago, and doing this leadership development and consulting, I've had the opportunity to work with a number of professional and college teams, along with corporations. And I've really enjoyed during this period of time to have an opportunity to do stuff like this, and kind of be able to interact with kind of the next generation and the younger athletes in these areas of leadership. And honestly, it goes hand to hand with being a good teammate. One thing in starting to tell you guys, I was fortunate enough to coach Train, and he was obviously, you guys know his history, but tremendous player, tremendous leader. I actually knew Coach Bice well before I even had a chance to cross paths with Coach Kelly, because Coach Bice was a camper. I used to run a Lone Star Lacrosse camp, one of the first camps in Texas, and Coach Bice was one of our original campers, and honestly one of the first ones from the state to go on and play college lacrosse. But more than just playing college lacrosse, but to play it at a really high level. So I'm really proud of him and what he's done, and what we were able to bring to Texas back then. So I want to talk about two things today. Usually when we do this, we try to make it as interactive as we can. It's not as simple doing it over Zoom, but we do have some options here and some opportunities to make it interactive. And if you go down to the participant, everyone at the bottom of your page, right, there's a participant piece there. And if you click on it, you'll see a list of everyone who's here, right? And in the bottom right of that list of everybody who's here is a raise hand option. And I don't know if you guys have used that, but I may ask you to use the chat, and I may ask you to raise your hand to answer some questions for me, as we go through this. So, the first thing that I want to start on, and again, leadership and being a good teammate go hand in hand. And, leadership is kind of a buzzword, right? And sometimes, it's kind of one of those bumper sticker, it tends to get to be one of those, kind of bumper sticker sayings. But, true leadership and culture is really the foundation of any successful team and any successful organization. So if I was to ask you guys to give me a quick definition of what leadership is, all right? I want you to give me a sentence, go right to chat, and tell me what your definition of leadership is.
You're not on the phone still.
So out of 65 of you, 3 of you have, okay, here we go. Starting to come up. All right.
Hey, Coach. I also, guys, just so you know, I set it so you guys can unmute yourself. So if Coach asks you a question, you go over to your name and you can unmute yourself to answer that and interact.
Okay, some really good stuff here, right? And I think a lot of you guys touch on some of the aspects of what a good leader, what the outcome is, right? Getting people together on the same page for a common goal. That's a good coach's answer. Being a good teammate, motivating other players. We're going to talk about motivation. Being willing to stand up when no one will. A role model who helps to push other people in a positive direction. Holding your teammates accountable. Okay, these are all good things, stuff we're going to talk about. Leadership is communicating to teammates in a positive way. Leadership is the ability to lead. That's kind of repetitive, but that's okay. Here's the definition of leadership, okay? And this is what I want you to think about. Leading is a verb, okay? Leading is getting people to act, right? It's getting people to act in a certain way. And there's ways that we can do that, and it goes hand in hand with being a good teammate. Okay. In order to lead, we believe that you have to have a couple of traits that are really important. The first one is curiosity. The second one is humility. Okay. The third one is empathy. And the fourth one is loyalty. Okay. Having those 4 traits, or a combination of those 4 traits, allows you to be both, and it gives you the tools to be both a leader, and it gives you the tools to be a good teammate. Okay. Now, curiosity is probably the most important trait that you can have as a teammate, a friend, a leader, a family member. Okay, because curiosity does a number of things for you. And I want you to think about this, guys. When you see something or something happens, one of your teammates is at practice and he's just not working hard. He's not putting out 100%. Okay, he's not, he is not living up to what your expectations are of them or what the expectations of the coach are. Okay, Tyler Lupinski. Can you hear me, bud? I want you to unmute. Tell me what your thoughts are about someone at practice that's not putting out.
Just like not hustling, and you gotta help them out and like get them to get to 100%. Help them out, like encourage them to do it.
Okay. So what's the thought in your head? What are you thinking about them when you see that happening?
Like I don't want to be like them. I want to strive to be better. Like don't let them put you. Don't go down to their thing and try to be better than them because they're not giving 100%.
Okay. So it's about you a little bit. You don't have to answer that. Andrew, what's it? Voinovich? If someone's not working hard, what are your thoughts about them?
I feel like if they're not putting in all their effort, they just shouldn't be there, or they're just wasting their time.
They're wasting their time. Okay, good. Bryce, give me a thought. Bryce Madden. Bryce, can you hear me, bud? Bryce, what are your thoughts? One of your teammates not working hard.
Come on, Bryce, where you at?
Bryce, I'm not hearing you, bud.
I unmuted him. I don't know what's going on.
That's okay. Let's see. Gavin, Grimmett, what do you think? Tell me what your thought is if someone's not putting out at practice. Got to take it off mute, Gavin. You guys are supposed to be better at this than I am. All right. So let me just tell you. All right, here's the story. We tend to think the things that you guys mentioned, right? They're wasting their time. They're not working. They don't care. They're dogging it. And we do this and we have the same idea as coaches, right? You call your girlfriend and she doesn't call you back that night. What do you think? You think, oh, maybe she's busy? No. You think, what's going on? Why is she mad at me? Who's she with? Who else is she talking to? Right? When we get an idea in our head, the first thing that we think, the initial idea in our head, is always the worst case scenario. If someone cuts me off when I'm driving, all right, they're an idiot. They're a bad driver. If my wife comes downstairs in the morning and doesn't say good morning to me in my office, in my house, I believe that I probably did something wrong, right? So now it's about us. It's only the story in our head. So we don't really know what the situation really is. So if one of my teammates is not having a good day in practice, or they're not working hard, all right, or it seems like they're not engaged, what I want to do is I want to say to them, hey, I noticed that you're struggling a little bit, or I noticed that your effort today is not what it usually is. I know what you're capable of doing. I'm curious, is everything okay? That's a lot easier than telling someone they're a dog or calling someone out or saying you weren't working hard today, because they're immediately going to go, whoa, right? You're immediately going to put them in a defensive mode. But if you say to someone, I noticed that you're struggling a little bit, is everything okay? You're probably going to get an answer and find out something that is completely different from what you thought. I failed a test, having some problems at home. I'm a little bit sick. I haven't slept, right? There are dozens of other reasons besides the one that you're thinking about. And then you know what your answer is after that? Can I help you? Is there any way I can help you? Okay. Curiosity as a coach and as a teammate and as a leader allows you to build trust with the people around you. It allows you to communicate in a non-confrontational way. And it allows you to truly understand the root of the problem instead of it just being the story in your head. When my wife comes downstairs and she doesn't say good morning or how did you sleep or can I get you a cup of coffee, I'll walk in the kitchen now and say, hey, is everything okay? You didn't stop by the office. And I find out it's usually one of three things. My son at Hopkins did something stupid with his debit card. My 25-year-old daughter who works in New York did a 25-year-old girl thing in New York that's a problem. Or my mother-in-law is being a pain in the butt. It tends not to be what the story in my head was. If your coach moves you to the third midfield and you're a first midi in practice, DJ, you go from first midfield to third midfield in practice. What do you think?
Usually that I'm not working hard enough or I need to work harder to get back on the first midfield line.
Okay. Aubrey, you get demoted in practice.
I would think like maybe other people are working harder than me and I need to step my game up.
Okay. Heather,
I'm Gemma. That's my mom.
Okay.
So I would just try to work harder and have it motivate me to become better.
Okay. What if you went home and told your parents that you went from the first midfield to the third midfield, or you were demoted from the first attack to the second attack? What kind of responses might you get from them?
They would just tell me that I should just go outside and keep on practicing and get my stick skills better and just get back to where I need to be.
Okay. That's a good set of parents. Luke, what might your parents say if you went home and said, I don't know what happened, coach moved me down, I've been demoted. What might you get from your parents?
Just go home and work harder.
Okay. You guys are lucky over at Resolute. You know what I hear a lot of? Coach doesn't know what he's doing. And let me tell you why. Every one of you gave me a worst case scenario, right? You weren't working hard enough. You weren't getting the job done. There's 3 reasons why I would bump somebody down at a practice. I would move someone from the first midfield to the third midfield because maybe I didn't have enough time to spend with that group. And I could always put one of my better players down there and they could help that group, right? They could, and that helps, that makes them better. They can help them in the schemes and our approach and how we play. It's a chance to evaluate some other people by allowing them to play with one of the better players on the team, because that may bring up their level of play and confidence. And now I get a chance to truly evaluate what they're capable of doing. And the third reason may be, just to mix it up that day and even things out. None of those are any of the reasons that you guys came up with. And what we think of is 3 things immediately. I got demoted, coach doesn't like me, I'm not very good, and a lot of times we go home and our parents say, they don't know what they're doing. When at the end of the day, in reality, it's none of that. So our ability to be curious and solve our own problems is really important, because I'm going to tell you, as a parent, we don't want our children to fail. We don't want them to be uncomfortable. We don't want them to be disappointed. So because of that, we tend to do a lot of things for them. And one of those things is solving their problems for them. What I want you to be able to do is to be able to develop the ability to solve problems. And that is very simple. It is simply being curious. Now, I became better as I matured as a coach at telling my guys why I was going to do something and what my intent was before I did it, to not allow their brains to go in a different place. But what you need to do in those situations is you need to talk to the coach and just ask a simple question. Hey, coach, I notice I'm in a different spot today than I was. Can you help me to understand why? And if, and how can I get back to where I was? What do I need to do? You may find out that it was simply nothing. But if you go with the story in your head, you're going to go to the wrong place most times. It's always the worst case scenario. Okay? That goes hand in hand with being a good teammate. The best, to me, in my mind, I coach the best players in the world, which is, in some ways, it's a unbelievable experience, but it also comes with its own set of some issues. Everyone on my team was the best player in their college team. They were all Americans. The ball was in their stick. They were the best defender. They were the best players in their organization, in their team. And a lot of them were world team players. They come to our team and they can't all be that guy. So what the best teammates do and are willing to do is give up personal recognition and personal fame for the betterment of the team and the organization. And that happens with teams. It happens in corporate. All right. People are willing to give up their individual successes for the betterment of the team. Now, I'm going to tell you who I believe is the best all-around midfielder, one of the best 3 all-around midfielders in the world right now. And you're going to be surprised when I tell you who he is, and I'm going to tell you why. John Hawes, who plays for me in the Whipsnakes, an assistant coach at Penn State. John Hawes could score 3 goals a game and have 3 assists. If you watch film on John Hawes, Mike Chanichuk gets his 2s because John Hawes is sealing someone so they can't get from the inside out. Our guys score goals because John Hawes makes hard cuts to the ball and drags somebody with him. We get extra possessions because John Hawes goes and picks up the tough ground ball. And you know what? In the championship game last year, Matt Rambo was the MVP. John Hawes was 3-2. When John Hawes has to take over, John Hawes takes over. And can I tell you, if you ask the guys on our team who they respect and believe is the best all-around player on our team, they're probably going to tell you to a man it's John Hawes. So the best leaders, they're able to develop relationships of trust, and the people in their organization, on their team, believe that they have their best interest and the best interest of the organization in mind. And if that is the case, they will do anything for you. The other thing leaders do and good teammates do is they resource their teammates to make them the best possible and the most successful that they can be. So I want you to go to the hand raise. Okay? And this is a little controversial. And what I talk to you about, you don't have to embrace it and do it, but I want you to think about it because it's going to help you to think differently about leadership and being a teammate and communication. Do you guys believe that leading by example is a form of leadership? If you believe leading by example is a form of leadership, go to participants and raise your hand. All right, so more, 75% of you guys believe that leading by example is a form of leadership. I tell you what, coaches push back at us, professional coaches, when they first hear this. But I want you to think about it. Leading is a verb, right? Leading takes action. Leading takes, you have to make a declaration in order to lead. Leading by example, you're doing what you're supposed to do. You're following the rules, and that tends to be about you. Because how does everybody else know you're leading by example? You can set an example, but you can't lead by example. In order to lead by example, you have to make a declaration or bring someone along with you. So look at it this way. You're at a party on Friday night, you have a game on Saturday, and your whole team is there. And a couple members, a number of the members of your team are breaking team rules for one reason or another, one way or another. They're doing something that they shouldn't be doing the night before a game. Right? And you sit there and you're not doing anything because you're following the rules. Okay? How is that having an impact on the people around you? How are you leading in actually bringing someone in making someone better there? What it takes in a situation like that is for you to actually say, hey guys, and this isn't easy, all right? This is wrong. We shouldn't be doing this. Let's get out of here. That is actually leading. If you're going to shoot extra after practice, in order to truly lead, and make your team better, you need to bring someone with you. Hey, I notice you're struggling a little bit with your shooting. Would you like to, I'm going to take some extra shots. Would you like to come out with me? Hey, I'd like to do some one-on-ones. Would you come out and do some one-on-ones with me? Your ability to influence other people to act in a positive way is leadership. Okay? You can set an example, but leading takes a declaration. It takes action where you're bringing people along with you. A little different from what you've always heard. All right? But the best leaders and the best teammates make people around them better. So we're working with a team that was going into the NFL draft, and they said, what is one question that do you think would help give us insight into how this player is going to fit into our program? And it's actually two questions, right? The first one is, how do you make the team better? And the second one is, give me an example, because they can job the first one. They can just tell you some BS. So we're working with the Panthers 2 years ago, Carolina Panthers. And there's a big D end. My partner's a former Army Ranger, was a JSAC commander, did over 1,100 missions, 11 combat tours. He's 6'4", 240. He's a big guy. This D end made him look tiny. And he was injured. So after practice, we asked him, hey, what did you do today to make the team better? And he said, well, I was cheering them on, right? Patting them on the butt when they came off the field. And my partner, JC, looked at him and goes, so today you were a cheerleader? And the guy kind of looks at him, and I didn't know which way it was going to go. He kind of looks at him and he goes, okay. And he walks off the field. These are OTAs. After the afternoon session, walk off the field, and he comes up to us. He goes, hey, guys. He said, I helped the other DNs with their footwork and their handwork, right? I helped the coaches. That's great. This guy had been in the NFL for 5 years. He was out for the next month. By the end of the month, he was breaking down film of the opponent's tight ends to help the DNs to prepare for the game. He went from clapping and, in being a cheerleader to making an actual impact in helping his teammates to get better. Another story, very similar, and gives you an idea of what curiosity can do for you. How many times have you done something and the coach says to you something like, hey, you got to shoot it overhand, or you got to bend over further to pick up the ground ball? When that happens, how often is that not really even what happened? Or we turn to a teammate and tell them something that they need to do, or a teammate turns to you and tells you something after you miss a shot. How do you react to that? Is it helpful? Right? It tends not to be helpful. It's just something you blow off, right? You don't need to hear that. You miss a shot, and your teammate tells you, shoot low and away. Coach screams, shoot overhand. Same idea. We're at practice, and they're doing 7-on-7s. And split end. Again, somebody who's been in the league for a while. Solid player. He runs a pattern. He turns. Ball hits him in the hands, drops the ball. The receivers coach on the sideline immediately says to him, you got to put your hands up like this. How many balls do you think that guy's caught in his life? Thousands upon thousands. Probably caught 100 before practice that day. So he came off the field, and I said to him, hey, what happened there? He said, I got into my break probably about a yard too late. And even though they didn't have uppers on, they just had their, the lowers on, they still bang each other a little bit. You can always, in a pro practice, you can get bumped. He said, I made the cut late. Saw the D-back or the safety coming out of the corner of my eye. I was late getting my hands up. And to be honest with you, I flinched a little bit. I said, so what do you got to do better there? He goes, I got to get into my break and my timing a yard sooner. Simple. Had nothing to do with his hands being there. So your ability to be curious as a leader and as a teammate, right? When one of your teammates is struggling, again, not having a good day of practice, the question is, hey, you miss a ground ball or something. What happened there? Is there anything I can help you with? Right? That's what leaders do. Leaders resource people. Leaders also provide accountability for people. If one of you guys said to your parents, I want to get a 30 on my ACT, and your parents said to you, all right, you're going to do extra vocabulary. You're going to take practice test every night. After school, you're going to stay after school to do some, to put in some extra time, and I'm going to get you a tutor. All right? Whose plan is that? Who owns that plan? Brandon, tell me who owns that plan. Brandon Lewis.
Your parents own that plan?
Right. They own it. So they're accountable because they own it. All you are is responsible for carrying it out. Right? So when you're just responsible and there's no ownership, you're not as likely to commit to it like you would if it was yours. So as a coach, as a teammate, as a parent, what we want to say is, okay, Brandon, you want to get a 30 on the ACT. Tell me how you're going to do it.
You would tell them your plan and not have them plan for you?
Yes. You tell them your plan. And then you own it and you're accountable. And it's your coaches, your teammates, your parents. Now they're just responsible for resourcing you as much as they can and providing you with the support that you need, but it's yours. And the takeaway with this, guys, and I talk a lot to college teams about this, without the resources that you have and the support that you have on a daily basis and you're left to your own devices, you have to now be really accountable for what you do. And how do you find that accountability? Right? You find that accountability by starting at the end game. Right? What do you want the outcome to be? I want to be efficient with my offhand in a month. I want to be able to use my offhand as well as I use my strong hand. Then you got to work backwards. What is my process to get there? And you have to devise your process. And along those process, you want to have milestones, right? At the end of a week, right, I want to be able to hit the bottom left consistently standing still. At the end of 2 weeks, I want to be able to hit that bottom left on the run. And how am I going to do it? All right, what is my process? Because what we try to do, everybody wants instant gratification. Everybody wants to get there. If you jump from where you want to be to the outcome, you're never going to get there. It's the process that gets you there. So your ability right now in this time where you do not have oversight, right, or inspiration consistently, it's really important to pick an outcome and have your own process to get there and execute on that process. Does that make sense? All right, let's see. So curiosity, I'm going to go 5 more minutes. With curiosity comes humility. Because when you're curious, hey, what do you think I can do better? Hey, what do you think about the way we executed today? Or as a coach or a parent, hey, tell me what happened there. Tell me how you think we could do something better. We have to be willing to accept the fact that there's other ways to do things. And our way isn't the only way. What curiosity also teaches you is how people learn. We all learn differently. When I was a young coach, everybody learned the same. I told them what to do and I yelled at them and they did it. As I evolved, right, I became more curious. When I showed film, I let the players go up and talk about the film. Tell me what you see good. Tell me what you see we could do better. And what that helped me do was understand how they were seeing things. A lot of times we will talk to each other, be it our friends or our players or our teammates or as a parent to child, and we think that they understand what we say the way we say it. But we find out that there's a lot of different ways that people learn. In order for us to resource and make people better, we have to understand how they process information and how they learn. Some people, you can just tell them something and they'll go execute it. Some people need to go out and walk through it. Some people need to see it on a board. Some need combinations of all the above. We also have to be willing, when we have humility, to try other things and do things other ways. And what we want to do is always provide an atmosphere where people have the ability to fail. Because if we don't fail and don't have the ability to fail, a couple things happen, all right? I'm going to ask you this one last question. If I asked you, whether it was from school or on the field, how often do you, and I want you to raise a hand on this, how often do you feel, what percentage of the time do you think you have to be great? And I only want you to raise a hand if you think it's over 80% of the time you have to be great. Whether it's in the classroom or on the field. If you think 80% or higher percentage that you have to be great, raise your hand. Okay, it's about 50%, which is, it's pretty good actually. So let me tell you about being great. It's impossible to be great all the time. The pressure of being great all the time is overwhelming, and the anxiety and the stress that it produces is paralyzing. If you try to be great all the time, you're less likely to take chances. You're less likely to go off of that, out of that path. You're afraid to make mistakes, which means you will never innovate. And the only way you can get better and the only way you can improve is to innovate. Christian McCaffrey. Everybody know Christian? Running back for the Panthers. Christian was a Heisman Trophy finalist. He was a Rookie of the Year finalist, first round draft choice. Terrific player, terrific kid. He thought he had to be great 100% of the time. Truly felt like he had to be great 100% of the time. So what we did, now he was a professional football player, so we could track his whole week. And we tracked his week. And at the end of the week, we sat down with him and we created, it's kind of IP for us. We created the circle of greatness. Quarter way down the circle is innovate. Halfway down the circle is fail. 3/4 of the circle, right, is learn. And then at the top of the circle is greatness. Christian had to be great 30 plays on Sunday. 30 plays on Sunday. You know what he had to do the rest of the time? What he had to do the rest of the time was prepare to be great, put himself in a position to be great. which meant he needed to innovate. And if we get to the quarter where we innovate and we're successful, we get better. We learn, go straight across. If we get to innovate and we fail, we still go back up because we've learned. Right? We have to accept failure as a positive because we learn what not to do or what we need to do better. You know how often Christian McCaffrey had to be great? 2% of his week. All right? And this is what it did for him. This is how it impacted him. The year after, this was at the end of his rookie year. Do you remember he had that unbelievable year and all of a sudden he's one of the best pass catching running backs in the league? He went out of his comfort zone in practice and innovated and worked on pass catching and made himself and added to his toolbox that skill. Because he was now willing to go to practice and try to do things and fail to be a better player during that 2% of the time that he had to be great. And it even happens in the classroom, guys. There's so much pressure and so much competition, right? If you do poorly on a test, what it does is it allows you to understand and learn and know what you need to do to get better the next time and what you got to work on to raise that. We worked with Villanova this year. They lost their first 2 games in the same fashion to 2 really good teams, Penn State and Yale, in the fourth quarter. They just, it was a mental thing, and there was some, and there was some history there. Then they came out, and in the same type of manner, they got into the fourth quarter with Maryland, and they beat them. Huge win. Huge win. Then they went out and beat Penn. They will admit to a man when we were working with them, they wouldn't have beat Maryland and Penn if they didn't lose to Penn State and Yale. Because what they learned in those 2 outings allowed them to grow and improve and to be better. So look, I've taken about 45 minutes of your time. A great turnout. I really enjoyed this. I know that there's a lot of different, you guys are at a lot of different points in your life and your career. Everybody can lead and everybody can make a team better, right? And everybody has an opportunity right now to adapt and find a way to work on something that you want to get better at. I'm trying to learn a language right now, right? I'm trying to find time every day to do something that makes me better at this, makes me better at coaching, okay? And makes me better as a person. So, I'd like you guys to think about how you can utilize this time to develop, right? To develop yourselves, develop your skills. And then when you get back together with all of the guys that are involved in this, all right, you have a skill set and the ability to make your team better, make your organization better, and to make your teammates better. You don't have to agree with everything, but if you come away with a couple thoughts, right, and you can come away from this being more curious, being more humble, and being a better teammate, and understanding that leadership takes action, right, then I think I think tonight's a success. Coaches know how to get a hold of me. If you guys do want to, or you want to chat, what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you my email address if you want to write it down. All right, I'll give you my personal email address. If you have a question, feel free to reach out. Okay, it's simple. It's J Stag STAG 525 at gmail.com. JSTAG STAG 525 at gmail. If you have any questions about the team, want to know what Coach Train was like in the locker room, any questions, feel free to reach out. I will tell you this, and this is why we were so good in Denver. Our guys did whatever it took and whatever was in the best interest of the team. And that's the same for my Whipsnakes. It's the common theme of any great team I've coached. And I can tell you, having Coach Train, he is, and the guys on the team will tell you, who've ever been on his teams, to a man, he's a phenomenal teammate. So that's, if anyone can ever say that about you, that you're a great teammate, that means you're a great leader, and that means you've had a positive influence and impact on your organization. Feel free to reach out if you need me, guys. I appreciate it. I wish you luck. Stay well. And coaches, thank you for including me. I appreciate it.
Awesome, Coach. Thanks for being a part of this. Really appreciate it.
You got it.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.